and I will try to walk you through our program with the assistance of a few of the hardworking faculty who have made time to show up today. Thank you so much. I'll try to get you out of here as early as possible. And after I go through some of this, I'll try to answer your questions if you have any remaining. I've received a list of questions that some of you have already submitted, and I will try to incorporate that into my talk, but and I'm sure I will miss some or skip some. So please feel free to ask me again at the end. Or if you're here and something is really burning, you can interrupt me. It's okay. So the plan here is to talk about why international studies, though you probably already have an answer for that. Why should you do it here? What can you learn from us? Additional opportunities to enhance your career potential here. How different ways you might be able to pay for it. And who you're going to meet here at KU GSIS. And then a little bit about what you can do with your degree, and then close up with a little bit of information about applying for the program. So why international studies? Well, as you guys know, things are getting kind of messy in our world today. And this messiness, I argue, needs a new kind of professional, and the kind of professional that we are trying to foster. We have, again, changing geopolitical, environmental, health, technological changes that are really transforming the world in which we live today. And in order to address these crises and opportunities, we need professionals who can critically and ethically evaluate challenges, contribute their individual expertise to debates about this, and importantly, communicate across specializations and integrate disparate views and specialized knowledge, right? One of our struggles in the contemporary era is that people are so narrowly specialized in a small field that they don't understand how their field relates to other fields. And in a program like KU GSIS, we try to help you understand how those fields relate to each other so that you can either translate between these people who only speak a single language and other people who speak a different single language, and hopefully come up with integrative solutions and ways to address the problems that we face today. So that's why we need people doing international studies and what we hope for you to do. So why should you come here? Well, first of all, we've got a world-class faculty of 22 full-time professors, over 50 people who teach in our program with the wide range of expertise that you need to develop those skills. Some of them are sitting here, and you'll hear from them soon. We have an ongoing number of events all the time. Every week, there's a few things that you can do and learn about without the pressure of having to take an exam and get a grade, which is a wonderful thing, really. We have some societies that are generally regional focused or topic focused that you can also join to conduct your own research or work with other people to develop your own networks. So there's a lot going on just here, but I mean, there's also the whole campus. Other parts of the school also have activities available. We give you the opportunity to tailor your own professional development. You curate your own curriculum. I mean, I guess to be honest with you, every program you create your own curriculum by choosing the classes you take, but it sounds really good, right? But we try to make it so that you can choose from a wide range of classes that suit your need. And as you'll hear when I talk about the thesis, we try to give you that opportunity to really develop a narrow individual specialization as well. All of our courses inside the program are taught in English. And we have students from all over the world that you can meet. And in fact, roughly 2/3 of our students are from places outside of Korea. So we're a very international community here. So what can you learn here at KU GSIS? We have the master's degree, the PhD degree, and I was pleased to see in the questions a number of people very interested in the PhD program. That's encouraging. At the MA level, we have 5 degrees that or tracks that you'll hear about soon: international commerce, international development and cooperation, international peace and security, Korean studies, and area studies. At the PhD level, I see that I neglected to edit this slide. We now have 4 PhD degrees that you can pursue. We have international commerce, we have international development and cooperation, we have international relations, and we have a new Korean studies program. So those other expertises were there, but we are now really ramping up our Korean studies program here in our school. And so we now have a PhD. So people can actually start from a bachelor's degree and stay here right through a PhD these days. And then we have some exchange programs and other special programs that I will talk about later on. But now, to make sure that my colleagues can actually get lunch today, I don't think I'm going to get lunch, but I want to make sure they get a chance to have lunch. I've asked each of them to briefly describe their track and give you a sense of what's going on. So first up is Lee Tong-eun, Professor Lee, our Buhakjang, our vice dean of the entire program. So here he is.
Thank you. My name is Dong-eun Lee. I'm one of the faculty member in international commerce field in GSIS. So international commerce sounds like a kind of international transaction of goods and services, right? However, it is not limited to that. Actually, although the international trade and international finance are the backbone of the international commerce field, but most of the many professors in this field just focus on empirical investigation on international issues, such as the environmental issues or the international labor issues, or it is possible that you can think about the effect of the war on the global supply chain. So if you choose international commerce as your field, you need to build up solid background on the empirical research. So you need to build up your statistical ability and or the econometrical method, and you can write a thesis on this kind of empirical analysis on the international issues. We can think about the empirical analysis of one factor on another one, like I said, the effect of Ukraine war on global supply chain, or it is possible that we can think about the environmental tax on the international trade or international finance. One of my research topic was that the effect of the environmental stringency on the FDI inflows, such kind of things. And we have faculty members in international commerce where Professor Kim Jong-ho focused on the international business and strategic management. So you can learn about the international business actually. And Professor Park In-won focused on the East Asian economy and the international trade. And Professor Park In-won and Professor Kang Mun-sung are the faculty members of the international trade actually. And Professor Kang Mun-sung is a kind of one of the top expert in the international trade in South Korea, and he knows well about the FTA, free trade agreement things. And Professor Robert Rudolph teaches about the policy evaluations. So it is possible that you can think about some policy, the effect of some policy on the economic affairs. And Professor Oh Jung-hoon focus on the digital economy nowadays. And that's me. Although my last name is not Lee, I use RHEE. I am the macroeconomist in our GSIS. Nowadays, I'm researching about the effect of the fiscal policy on the economy. And Professor Kwak Do-won, he's a applied microeconomist, and basically he teaches about the econometrics, and nowadays he focused on various issues on the labor market and the policy evaluations. Okay, that's about the international commerce. Thank you.
Thank you so much. A couple more tips there. One is that Professor Ree every year receives a university-wide prize for the quality of his teaching. He's one of the best professors we've got. Two, we've recently added accounting courses into our curriculum too to enhance the business and management side. And three, starting next semester, we will be offering a certificate and a degree in digital trade. Or at least within international commerce, you can have digital trade as your specialization. So we have a whole bunch of new classes that are going to be added to that area. And so next up to speak about our international peace and security track is Im Shi-jung, not Im Shi-jung.
Thank you. It's Lim in English and Im in Korean, I guess. So my name is Chi-jung Lim, and I am one of the faculty members here at the GSIS who do teaching and research on a broadly defined theme of international peace and security. So you might wonder what international peace and security entails. It, for instance, covers research questions on international security. Why war? Why violent conflict? But it also talks about political causes and consequences of economic phenomena, which is a subfield called international political economy. And then the IPS field also includes studies that focuses on the role of international institutions and how history shapes international affairs, the legacies of history. And we actually have a large number of faculty members who does bits and bits of IPS related research, but importantly, we're also having a new faculty member who's hopefully joining us in fall 2024, a professor who specializes in Chinese and East Asian history and international relations. You can look at the slide and the expertise of the professors in the track. If you join or if you choose the international peace and security track and take courses on international peace and security, of course, you can write interesting research papers and theses on, again, the very broadly defined theme of international peace and security. For instance, these are the selected papers published in international and Korean journals in the year 2023. You can see that we have a student who wrote a paper on the security issues, such as Russia's invasion of Ukraine and how it affects Korean security. We also have studies that touches on actually I would say cross-cuts different specializations at the GSIS. For instance, this paper by a student, an alumni now, was on the role of cultural public diplomacy in enhancing foreign policy. But she was actually an IC track student, so you don't have to be an IPS track student to write an IPS thesis, because these divisions between the specializations are very fluid. You can actually cut across these boundaries. And in her case, she looked at how the presence of King Sejong Institutes affects foreign policy alignment between the country and South Korea, looking at the measures such as the number of international economic integration agreements. So she combined her training in IC and then did a research on the IPS related theme. The second one was as well, the student was an IDC student. She knew a lot about foreign aid, was interested in foreign aid, but she combined her training in IDC and eventually wrote an IPS thesis on looking at foreign aid as a soft power resource and conducted a survey experiment in Australia and how people in Australia changes their view of Korea when they're exposed to an information of Korea's aid to Cambodia. So in this way, you can engage in varieties of different research topics. So I would hopefully see some of you next semester in my class or any of the IPS classes. Thank you.
So yes, thank you very much. This sort of just again to highlight that notion of the fluidity of tracks and thesis topics should have answered somebody's question that put it online. And even though we only have examples of papers that have been written by people in IPS and IIC, people publish in all of the tracks. So next up, we have a discussion of area studies and Korean studies by Professor Park Seung-kyung, one of our newest faculty.
Thank you. Okay, nice to meet you. I'm Seung-kyung Park and in the Division of Korean Studies. So I believe one of the benefit and strength of GSIS in Korean University is the fluidities of the division. So suppose you major in IC or RDC or IPS, and then still you need your area as an expert. So it's better to study the specific features and circumstances on some countries based on your field or your research topics. So for that, GSIS offers a lot of courses regarding area studies. So we do have a specialist studying East Asia, Europe. And then also recently, GSIS made a new courses regarding Korean studies. So probably one of the benefits studying here is to enjoy the life in Seoul. And I believe many international students really like the lives in Seoul. So, and then it will be better to understand what makes Korea and Seoul so special these days, so interesting and fascinating. And then also, I think one of the interesting research question for the students in other countries, like developing countries, that how can, for example, how can Korea was successful to establish economic development and also political achievement like democratization and successful consolidations of democracies. So to understand that, we offer courses like Korean politics and sociologies of Korea, societies of Korea, and then culture of Korea. So for do that, we have a faculty who specialize in social change in Korean societies and culture, like, for example, Professor Andrew Eungi Kim, and also our new faculty members, Professor Sohun Lee. And to explain the political success and political change of Korea, I'm operating the class like Korean politics. And then we also have probably new faculty who will teach the relationships of among East Asian countries, probably Alan Wang. And also we do have a historian who explained the Japanese politics and the relationship between Japan and Korea. So I guess after all, if you get the degree here, GSIS in Korea, you probably get the questions about Korea and Korean politics and Korean societies. So I strongly encourage you to take one of these courses to explain the Korea more systemic way, more academic way, based on your field research topics. Okay, thank you.
Oops, thank you so much. And as an example of how we're always trying to improve our program, I have a meeting with Professor Park on Friday evening when we should all be going home, okay, to discuss new potential courses and potentially redesigning the Korean Studies program a little bit to make it look a little bit more forward. So, so I anticipate exciting changes and positive changes in the Korean Studies program going forward. But before I continue, I would like to free up the faculty who have, sacrificed their lunchtime or probably wilting with hunger at the moment to leave with my deepest appreciation. So thank you. And we have a couple of area studies centers. I'm going to briefly talk about international development and cooperation, which is where I sit. And it is what Professor Lim describes as perhaps the most cross-cutting of disciplines, right? The focus is on countries who are less wealthy and looks at different aspects of their development process. And this incorporates a number of people from quite a number of fields. And rather than talk about specific individuals, I'll talk about specializations that we do have on offer at the moment. We have a human rights expert, Sochang Rok, who's also spends a lot of his time in Geneva on the Human Rights Commission or Advisory Commission. We have a number of faculty that are interested in education and development. And another improvement that we're going to try to introduce, we're going to try to create a couple of education and development classes that are specific starting next semester. There's me, my specialization is urban planning, social justice, and sort of theoretical approaches to what development is. And we have specialists in development economics and gender and development. We have people who do climate change from an international law perspective, sort of environmental sustainability that way. People who also approach it from the focus on energy, and we have one of Korea's top specialists in water and water supply, who's particularly interested in the Mekong Delta region, but not limited to that. And so, if you do IDC, we have a sort of way that you might work through think about approaching your degree, which is to start in your first year by focusing on these sort of theoretical concerns, which, as you'll see, is kind of necessary. Then moving into more of an application to practical concerns. And then you emerge as an international expert where you can work in a number of public organizations, international organizations, or NGOs, academics, et cetera, et cetera. And so that is us. So let me talk to you briefly about the sort of curriculum as a whole. If you do have deeper questions, I can pursue that later on in the Q&A. But basically, we have two tracks here, a thesis track and a non-thesis track. For the KU degree, you can select either of these, even if you do a dual degree with another institution. And basically, the difference is ultimately you have to take the same number of credits, but we count writing a thesis as 6 credits, as the equivalent of 2 classes. So if you're doing the thesis track, you have 2 less classes to take than the non-thesis track. And instead, in the thesis track, the non-thesis track, if you're not writing a thesis, you take 2 more classes in your area of specialization. But I would again, and you'll hear me talk about this in the future, I'm sure. But if you come, I can't strongly recommend enough that you write a thesis, because it is really a chance for you to build some of the most important autonomous skills of formulating a question, thinking about how to approach a problem, developing a methodology that allows you to address that problem, come up with a solution in a sense, to implement your solution, and to analyze it and process it. And so it's a real, simply from a hard skills perspective, writing a thesis is incredibly valuable. From a soft skills or knowledge perspective, it's additionally valuable because every one of your interests is going to be unique, right? And it's going to be somewhat different. In most cases, there are some exceptions, but almost every time your particular interests are going to be different from the faculty that we have, different from every faculty out there, right? This is what makes you unique. And so the thesis, in addition to your class papers and whatnot, but the thesis is an opportunity for you to dig deep into what makes you unique and what you are most interested in, which is also going to be precisely the kind of investigation that and knowledge and skill set knowledge, yeah, anyway, that will make you more competitive in the market later on, right? Because if you have a narrow specialization, you can say, look, I have done work in this area, and that should that should make you able to compete effectively. Sorry, getting distracted by the list of ECs here. These are from a couple years ago. So I won't talk specifically about the tracks and the specific requirements of them, except for two things. One is that we have 4 core classes that everyone has to take 3 of. And that is, again, so that, you know, we think that these overlap and feed into each other, but we know that for some of you, the political question might not be as important as other questions. And so we want to get you into, we want you interdisciplinary, but we also want you to specialize a bit. So, you know, maybe you skip one of those. So I wanted to point out that for the general MA. And the other piece is that the Korean Studies curriculum is distinctly separate from the other master's degrees at present, and requires a different set of prerequisites and whatnot, though you can also write a thesis or not write a thesis in Korean studies. The reason I mention this is that we now fortunately have made it so that you can switch between Korean studies and the other tracks, right? So if you come to our school, you do not have to decide which track you are until your 3rd semester. So basically, the beginning of the 2nd year, you'd say, I'm going to do IDC, I'm going to do Korean studies, whatever it is. And even after that, you can change up during your 3rd semester. I think you can still change. Huh? No, you can't. But the problem can be that, as you can see, the core requirements, the class requirements for Korean studies are very different. So you can switch, but if you think you might want to switch, plan carefully. That's the big point here, is that there's enough difference that, you know, if you want to keep that flexibility, you should plan accordingly and carefully. Also, let me note that if you are an international student, you can select Korea as your area study, right? So all of our students have to take at least 2 courses about a particular area of the world so that you have a bit of a focus geographically. And if you are international, that focus can be Korean. So, so that gives you some more flexibility if you're thinking about shifting between tracks. But again, you don't have to declare until your 3rd semester. And another piece that I will throw in here, since it came up in the questions, is that for we're waiting for approval still, but We expect that master students will be able to take up to 6 credits from other KU graduate programs. I mean, you can now, but up until now, the requirement has been that those classes are in English. But we are waiting for approval now to let people take classes that are given in Korean. So this is particularly important for those people who want to build their Korean skills, and especially for Korean studies, right? So all of our classes internally are in English, but we're trying to create the opportunity to take classes in Korean outside of our program. And it's even more for PhD students, which again, we can go through the details later on if you're interested. We have a revamp of the PhD program that is also being waiting for approval now that we hope will make the PhD program more efficient and focused and speed you through the process a little bit more. Okay, so I'm going to skip that stuff. Sorry, student councils, you're so patient. You're learning about the program, all right? Yeah. So what other opportunities do you have here? Not only is it learning and events, but we also have created a number of certificates so that you can signal to potential employers that you have a narrower skill set or knowledge set, which you can get basically by getting an average of A or higher in 3 classes related to these different topics. And digital trade will be up here soon. We offer a number of dual and exchange programs. We have a long-standing one with American University, which is where, anyways, there were some questions about AU, and I can answer those later on if you want. But we also, through our Campus Asia program, which is kind of like an Erasmus program, if you know the European program, but it's sort of Erasmus for China, Korea, Japan, and now more of Southeast Asia. We have dual degree and exchange programs with Kobe and Fudan. We just interviewed people and decided to send 2 people to Kobe and 2 people to Fudan next semester. We have a dual degree now with SOAS in London, which is a great one. And while it can be a little bit expensive, because after all, London is expensive, up until now, we have been able, through our BK21 program, to provide some pretty generous support for the tuition. So it's a great dual degree program that you might want to take advantage of. And we have a couple of lesser used, but still active relationships with the Waseda University, where there are some great education development people, and the Diplomatic Academy of Vienna, which has some very strong Korean studies programs. And what we have been discovering this semester is that it's also possible to take advantage of other exchange programs that the university as a whole offers. But if you do choose to do that, you have to be very careful to make sure that the courses that you might take through that program would be approved by us for credit. So it's a little riskier. With the rest of them, you're in pretty good shape. So we have these dual degree programs. And so other universities might say, oh yeah, we have exchange degree programs with over 100 universities or something like that. We do too. But we have a handful of which we have very tight relations and very close relations with these schools, and that we find to be quite fruitful for our students. We also have, again, I just described the Campus Asia program, which specializes in risk management. And it's definitely one of for the dual degree and stuff, the support is exceptionally good, including a living stipend and airfare and all of this kind of stuff. So it's a really great program. if you're interested in risk management, which is a very broad concern and can apply across all of the disciplines that we teach. We have a EU Center program that provides support for the EU Society for internships in the EU and hosts competitions and things like this. And for the last 6 years or so, we've had our BK21 program on global conflict resolution, through which you can receive tuition support and support for research and other activities. It's really been a wonderful benefit for you, the students, to be able to pursue your education. Additionally, quickly here, we have a 3+2 program. If you're an undergraduate in DIS, I don't know if anybody of you are, but you can get a master's degree and a bachelor's degree in 5 years and compress your education a little bit. We have a program in global human rights that provides support for work and research around that area, and the Center for Global Climate and Marine Governance, which has a program for that supports sustainability research and internships. So how can you pay for your degree? This is always, a concern for many. Again, the first thing to know is that the website is a wealth of information and has answers to lots and lots of the questions that people are asking. And so I would encourage you to check that out as well, though I'm happy to answer any of them today. But if you go to our website, int.korea.edu, you'll find us. And if you go to the graduate program, in particular, you can go here and find scholarships, and all of the details about each scholarship that we have available to us is listed in depth. So if you have concerns or questions about a specific scholarship or specific scholarships that you might be eligible for, this is the place to go. You can find additional sources, I hope too, but this provides our basic information. This also includes the rough tuition fee, which is about 7 million won per semester. Cheap by comparison to my graduate degree in the US, I'll tell you. Let's see, is there? Yeah, we're good. That's the wrong one. F5 should do that too. And now we're starting all over again. So the world is changing. Okay. So having directed you to that resource, where you can also find lots of other resources and information too, including the application system. More on that in a minute. We have scholarships are roughly divided by whether you're national or international, and it's not because we want to discriminate, but because the Korean government discriminates in that they have support that is intended to support Korean students in particular, to foster capacity within the country. And then other scholarships are available for international students. I mean, some of them overlap. And so you can get scholarships for performing well. I think maybe a third or so of students this semester got some sort of support for academic performance. We have TA-ships and RA-ships, research assistants and teaching assistants, in which you can work with a professor to help them navigate the system or conduct their research. And that is whether or not you do the thesis track or not. If the professor would like to work with you, then that's just fine. We have our BK21 scholarships that I already mentioned and Campus Asia scholarships as well. Every time, what do we do? But you pushed a button or something, didn't you? Is that right? Yes. Oh, there's the international students. So you can also, there's international students can be eligible for the Korean government scholarship, which you'll need to apply ahead of time. There's KOICA scholarships, which is, in particular, we are just renewed our program on tax policy. To get that, you have to be, basically have to be working in a developing country government, have support from them to apply. But if you're interested in tax policy and don't fit into that category, you can still take classes. And then the other scholarships apply as well. But so this is, basically well over $1 million are available each year, or last year anyway, for students. So, we really try to do our best to spread the wealth and help you acquire the resources you need to be here. Okay, you're almost up. So, so we told you why you should come here, why you should do international studies. I told you a little bit about the structure of the program and some ways that you hinted at which ways you might be able to finance it. So now a little bit of who you might meet. I already told you we have over 300 students from 65 countries this semester. I can also assure some of you, since I know this can be a concern for some, that we have, and this is from a couple years ago now, but we have students from a wide variety of academic backgrounds. So just because you didn't do political science or economics or something like this in your undergraduate years doesn't mean that you can't find a way through our program. In fact, we believe that having this diversity is what adds to the wealth of knowledge that we have here, right? If solving our contemporary problems involves interdisciplinary collaboration, having people with different backgrounds and different perspectives can only help us develop better courses and have more interesting conversations in our classes. And so with that, let me introduce you to one of our students, whose name Raul. So here he goes.
So hello everyone, my name is Raul. I'm from Italy. I'm currently in the second semester majoring in international commerce. And I'm also the vice president of the student council this year. And I have to excuse the president who couldn't make it today. And so our duty as a student council is to welcome, of course, first of all, the new freshman students. And we know that it might be overwhelming. It might be tough at first when you are enrolled in KU GSIS, and also the paperwork you need to do, especially for international students to get your ARC and also to enroll for your courses. And we will be actually there for you just to guide you through this a little bit of tough, but at the end of the day, not so tough process. And also for Korean students and international students, we are a platform where we can connect these two these two realities in KU GSIS. And we are in the student council 11 members. And also we counted the last a few days ago that we all together we speak a total of 12 languages, which also might be really beneficial for every one of you on Zoom who might want to enroll. And throughout the semester, we will not only, of course, guide the freshman students, but we will also create some events, like, for example, some get-togethers, some coffee socials, where not only students from different semesters can gather and also maybe become friends in the future, but also some professors might join sometimes. And you can also have some insights to get to know them more on a personal level than on an academic level. And also we also want to extend the boundaries of KU GSIS, and we are also meeting the GSIS programs from other universities. For example, we have some picnics with Yonsei GSIS and also as a new GSIS. And currently we are also trying to rebuild an old student association, which is including all the GSIS from whole Seoul. And it's still a project. We are working on it, but we are really confident that maybe for the next semester we'll be ready. And yeah, so also if you're interested in our work, you will definitely have the possibility to join the student council yourself after the first semester, of course. And we really hope that we can all meet you soon in the next semester. And please, if you have any questions, the student council is also ready to to help with your inquiries. And you can find us on Instagram and also per email. And maybe later on Zoom, I can put the information in case you have any information or you want to have some information from a student. And we will be really glad to help. And I think that was it from me. Thank you so much, Professor.
Thank you, Rahul. Yeah, the student council here is great. They really have been super cooperative in supporting our endeavors and initiatives, among which one you'll hear in a few minutes. But first, let's just briefly suggest that with your KU degree, you can go lots of places. I'm not going to go through it, but this is a list of people's employment location since 2017 and 2022. So not the most recent, but 2020, I guess. And this shows where they go, typically to private firms and public institutions, but also international NGOs, PhDs, et cetera, et cetera. And so now, oops, I didn't expect this to be here, but this is a good time for us to talk about what you need to do to get into the program. So this is our schedule. We have the open house today. You're here. Online application starts on Monday, and goes until the 19th. Again, this is like Korea. We work with short windows. But we've tried to give you a little bit of extra time to submit your documents. If you're Korean, you've got until the 22nd. And if you're international, you've got until the 26th to submit your documents. If you really have some genuine difficulty getting a hold of a document, please contact the administrative office. They'll try to work with you on these things. They're also awesome. And I know some of these things can be a little complicated. But one of the key things, especially for international students, is that in the online system, you only need to submit the electronic versions of the documents at first. But if you're accepted, eventually you have to send some originals, which you will get back. And Koreans as well. So we need, because Korea is really working hard to make sure there's no corruption. We need paper documents. We need to see those original paper documents at some time. And if you're interested in why, you can look into some recent history over the last few years about plagiarism on dissertations and people co-authoring articles with their children, things like this. So we will need to see those. One other thing that I've recently discovered and we need to keep complaining about is that the online application system only works on Windows. It does not work on Mac OS, doesn't work on Linux. It's I'm a little pissed off about this, but make sure you have access to a Windows computer to make it work. And then after submitting your documents, we interview all Korean applicants, which will happen on May 25th, and international PhD applicants as necessary, right? So sometimes if, it depends on people's location and what have you. But typically, if you make the short list and you are in Korea, we like to try to talk to you about things. But you'll be alerted in advance. And there was a question about that, which was recommendation letters, which is that if you are an international student, you need to submit recommendation letters. And that is partly because we don't force you to come in for an interview or interview you online. So that's part of how we deal with that. And then, yeah, assuming everything, well, one way or another, we let you know in the middle of June what has come out. And I believe the website will be working soon. Again, we would have updated it sooner, but we have to wait for the central office to approve. Anyway, bureaucracy has gotten in the way. But it will be available soon. And if you have questions about that, the best people to contact are the GSIS admin at korea.ac.ar. GSIS admin. GSIS ADMIN. But anyway, you'll have received emails from them by now. They're the best position to answer your questions. So tips on applying, again, try to get your documents. I mean, if you're interested, if you haven't already started trying to get these documents, start this afternoon. Because, people people that you're asking have lives, and these things can take a little while to get them. But for us, I would suggest to you that your statement of purpose or your research program or plan are the most important documents for us, right? Because we know if you're applying for graduate school, you're already diligent and hardworking, right? We don't need to know that kind of stuff. And we can see the sort of basic details of your background from your application, the jobs that you list, the educational background, et cetera. But what we want to do is to know you a little bit better, what makes you unique, what makes you a valuable contributor to our program, in addition to what we think we might be able to offer you. And so your SOP is the place where you can tell us who you are, basically, and why you want to come. And so when you are doing this, and again, I'll point this out, these tips and more are on my personal website here, cuzproduces.com. You can find the applying for graduate programs link on the right-hand side. That gives you some suggestions. But again, we don't need you to tell us how diligent and hardworking you are. We don't want a summary of stuff that you've done, that you've listed elsewhere, right? We don't need you to summarize your work history, except insofar as it tells you what makes you unique, right? Sometimes your job history is precisely what gives you the experience or knowledge that makes you special, right? So if you're going to include it, make sure that it directs us to help us understand who you are, what your story is. And it's also good to be clear about what you want to learn and your motivations for studying. Right? What is it that you hope to gain from your degree? And I understand. I've been where you are. It's sort of like, well, I want to get a job doing, whatever, good things in development, right? that is true, but try to give us a little more specificity about the kind of things that you think you might want to do later on. Do you want to work for an NGO? Do you want to work in education and development? Do you want to work for a research institute doing hard security, et cetera, et cetera? And if you are applying for the PhD, we also are, the strongest applications will provide a sort of a loose research plan for what you would like to do, which should give us a sense both that you understand what the kind of topic and area that you want to research. You should demonstrate some familiarity with the theories or the literature related to the topic that you'd like to study. Provide us with a kind of question that you would like to explore, and perhaps a method, loosely, you want to, of how you would answer the question. Do you hope to use data? Do you hope to use interviews, ethnography, et cetera, et cetera? Because, and again, whatever you write for your motivations and your research plan, you're not stuck with it forever, right? These are, fundamentally the way you should think about these are demonstrating some sort of individuality and direction that convince us that we can work with you, right? I mean, it's natural that as you take more classes and learn more things, your interest shifts, your questions change. We expect that, but you need to start out with some pointing us in some, and yourself in some direction. And that's what we want to see in the SOP. So we hope that you will join us here at KU GSIS. We really do think we have a good program, and we think we can help you make the world a better place so that we can avoid or escape these problems that our contemporary transformation is bringing upon us. I'm a bit of a pessimist these days, I'm afraid, but I'm an optimist that we can help you develop the skills that we need to escape our problem. So if you are interested, there is already this link online, but starting on Friday through Thursday through next Friday, we've set up a system with the help of the student council to allow you to join a student for an afternoon or perhaps a morning, attend a class, walk around campus a little bit, and perhaps talk to a professor after the class or something like this. And as a way to help you try to answer those questions that may linger past today. And so, yeah, so here's the QR code. It's also available on the website that you've seen. I would suggest, I'm just begging for a little mercy here. This is the first time we've tried this, and I realized that I organized it in a less efficient way than I should have. So if you're interested, please, if you haven't signed up already, please plan for next week, not this week, and put your request in soon. I hope to look at it in detail and make most of the arrangements tomorrow. But we have to coordinate your schedule, student schedule, et cetera, et cetera. I would also strongly suggest that you choose afternoons, because it turns out that we basically don't have too many morning classes this semester. So those of you who like to sleep in, this is the place. So yeah, but we'd love to have you here. Come and visit and take a little bit of a look. I mean, some of you are already here, but if you're at home, or if you here would just like to go to a class, you can come back, sign up and come back. Here's a bunch of ways that you can connect with us and see both what we've offered and what some students have done. And you can, again, for administrative questions, you can contact GSIS admin at korea.ac.kr, and they'll help you with those issues. If you have questions about the program more broadly, especially curriculum, content, degrees, et cetera, you can email me at cuzpotter@korea.ac.kr. So with that, I will close up the presentation part. I know we probably said we're done by 1, but I will stick around for a little bit. If other people need to go get lunch, you're free to make a break for it. And especially our student council representative, if you need to escape. So let's see. So I don't know if any questions from here? But, if you do have questions, you can put them in the chat. I mean, maybe I've gotten good enough at this that, oh, there it is. But I've answered most of your questions. Or not. All right, so Korean students don't have to submit recommendation letters, although those are always good. Wow. Well, so no questions? Well, I guess I've gotten better or more boring as the years have gone on. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you have to apply. And you should contact the admin office about how to do that. But yeah. Yeah. It's not if you're already a DIS student, it's not a very difficult hill to climb, but you do have to apply. And you should do it. Yes. I'm not sure I know that. What I see is just, oh, well, we approved this this class somewhere else. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think students simply look at other schools' coursework, and then it must be through the admin office that they apply for request approval.
Relevant professor and got approval from him or her. And then, yeah, their university, GSIS, send us official letter, and then we accept it, and yeah, systematically you're.
Okay, so the request is to the professor at the other program, and then it goes through the administrative office. But if it's within a GSIS program, it's a formality more than it is, anything. There shouldn't be any objections to any of that kind of thing, unless somebody has very narrow course requirements, which does happen sometimes. But mostly it's a formality. Let's see. Remote interviews for Korean students. Oh, I don't know. Can we do that? We should be able to do that. If we can. Yeah, we have not yet done any online interviews with Korean master's applicants. But we might be able to coordinate something like that. Yeah, okay, so you'll get an answer in the chat room in a second. Sorry, I have a bit of a cold or allergies or something. Oh, right, yeah, so yeah, this was a question I from China that I was trying to answer earlier on, that you can If you're a master's student, you can take up to 2 classes in other departments in Korea University, as well as classes in other GSIS. And those, if the approval goes through, those classes within GSIS or within Korea University can be in Korean. So we expect, right? So there's 2 things, right? So you can take 6 credits at a GSIS program outside of Korea University, and those will all be in English. Oh no, some of those actually are in Korean too, I understand, and that's okay, as long as it's within a GSIS. Or you can take courses in other departments in Korea University, and if we get approval, those can be in any language. So they could be, they don't even have to be in English or Korean. They could be in French. They could be in Spanish. As long as it's relevant to your degree, it can be, you know, once approval comes, it should be able to be in any language. Let's see. The Year Abroad and Erasmus program. I think the administration people are going to answer that question, but my guess is that you only need the notarized or apostille document for your own university. I don't think you need it for the program that you've been on exchange with. But they will correct me if I'm wrong. I know when I was applying for a job, I didn't have to get the certificate from my year abroad. Anyone else? Yes, not. So yeah, so once again, yeah, you can submit all those, any certificate you want, we'll take them. But anyway, so let me wrap up and just again say, you know, thank you for coming. Thank you for tuning in. Consider coming to visit one of our classes and what have you. My own class in development and introduction to development is on Friday afternoon. If you're interested in that, you know, you can just come. You don't even have to, it's in room 423. You can just show up. But if you want to get connected with a student, we'll try to do that too for this week or next week. And yeah, anyway, we really hope that you'll choose us because we really want the most robust program we can provide. And any program is a mixture, a combination of the students we have and the faculty and the activity and the administration all the time. So I should just shut up and let you all go get some lunch. So thanks for tuning in. Bye-bye.